What would you sacrifice to find the one you love? This is the heartbreaking journey of CEO Toan in Tu Diem, a love tested by fate, danger, and despair. Lost deep in the forest, Tu Diem is saved by an old man, while Toan searches endlessly until his body collapses from exhaustion. As he lies on the brink of life and death, their connection refuses to break. Will love guide them back to each other? Don't miss this emotional story. Subscribe now and follow every chapter of their gripping, soul-stirring reunion. After days of wandering helplessly through the depths of the forest, weakened by hunger, thirst, and countless wounds, Tu Diem's body finally gave in. She collapsed under the shadow of towering trees, her consciousness fading with every labored breath. Just when everything seemed to darken forever, an old man, weathered by time but still strong, appeared like a figure from a distant dream. He was a hermit, living a life of seclusion in the heart of the forest, far from the noise and cruelty of the outside world. Seeing her fragile body lying motionless among the roots, he did not hesitate. He carefully lifted her up, her weight light as a feather, and carried her back to his humble hut, hidden among thickets and moss-covered stones. The hut was modest but surprisingly warm, with a small fireplace where the old man prepared a herbal remedy from the leaves and roots he had collected over the years. For days, he nursed Tu Diem back to life, spoon-feeding her broth, gently cleaning her wounds, and wrapping her in thick blankets to fight off the cold that had settled in her bones. The old man barely spoke, but his eyes were kind, his hands gentle, and every gesture carried a lifetime of wisdom and compassion. When Tu Diem finally regained consciousness, she was disoriented, her mind clouded by lingering fear and exhaustion. She tried to speak, but her voice was faint, like a whisper caught in the wind. The old man simply smiled, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder, silently assuring her that she was safe now. Days passed, and though her strength gradually returned, a heavy burden still weighed on her heart. She had no way to contact Toan. Her phone was shattered beyond repair, a casualty of her desperate escape, and in this isolated part of the forest, there was no signal, no connection to the outside world. Each night, as the forest fell into a deep and eerie silence, Tu Diem sat by the small window of the hut, gazing out into the darkness. Her thoughts were consumed by Toan. Was he still searching for her? Was he safe? Did he think she was gone forever? The ache in her heart grew unbearable with each unanswered question. She remembered his voice, his warmth, his promises that he would always protect her, and the image of his worried eyes haunted her. She desperately wanted to let him know she was alive, that she was fighting to come back to him. The old man, noticing her sadness, tried to comfort her with stories of the forest, of how sometimes life brings us to the darkest places just to remind us of the light within. But Tu Diem's soul remained restless. She knew that every moment she spent here, Toan was somewhere out there worried, searching, perhaps even blaming himself for not protecting her. That thought alone kept her awake at night. Still too weak to walk far, Tu Diem began to gather her strength with determination. She knew she couldn't stay hidden forever. She owed it to Toan, to herself, to find her way back, no matter how impossible it seemed. She didn't know how or when, but one thing was certain, she would see him again, she had to. And as the old man prepared more herbs and soups for her recovery, she silently vowed to survive, not just for herself, but for the man who was still waiting, out there somewhere, refusing to give up on her. Far beyond the shadowy forest where Tu Diem was healing, CEO Toan was a man on the edge of collapse. Since the day she vanished, he hadn't stopped, not even for a moment, to rest or recover. Every dawn brought him deeper into the wilderness, every dusk found him in unfamiliar villages, desperately questioning anyone who might have seen a glimpse of her. The once polished, composed businessman had become almost unrecognizable, his face gaunt, eyes hollow with sleeplessness, his sharp suits replaced by rugged clothes stained with dirt and sweat. Each time someone shook their head or gave a pitying look, Toan's hope thinned, but he refused to let it die. He couldn't imagine life without her, and the thought that she was out there alone, injured, perhaps calling his name in despair, gnawed at his soul like a relentless predator. The forest was vast, treacherous, and indifferent to human suffering, but still, he pushed on. Every snap of a twig, every distant sound, he thought, prayed, that it might be her. The search parties he had hired gave up one after another, claiming it was pointless to keep looking without a trace. But Toan kept going, alone if he had to. His friends and colleagues pleaded with him to stop, to rest, to think rationally, but rationality had long abandoned him. He was driven by a singular, burning force, love and guilt. He had promised her safety. He had sworn to protect her. Yet now, all he had were haunting images of her fragile figure disappearing into the woods, her terrified eyes glancing back one last time. Days blurred together. Toan stopped counting them. His body grew weaker with every passing hour, but his mind wouldn't let him rest. Nights were colder in the forest, but he barely noticed. He lit small fires to keep warm, but even the flames couldn't thaw the chill that had settled deep in his chest. He whispered her name into the wind, begged the trees to return her to him, and when the echoes of his pleas vanished into nothingness, his heart sank deeper into despair. Then came the dreams, or were they hallucinations? Or he'd see her calling out to him, her voice faint and broken, as if from another world. He'd jolt awake, drenched in sweat, only to find emptiness and silence. His mind was fracturing, his body crumbling, but still, he trudged forward like a ghost refusing to die. Until one afternoon, under the weight of the burning sun and sheer exhaustion, Toan's legs gave out. He stumbled onto a dirt path, his vision spinning, the world around him warping and fading. The last thing he remembered was the blur of concerned faces, distant voices shouting for help, and then darkness. Local villagers had found him just in time and rushed him to the nearest hospital. Doctors shook their heads gravely, his condition was critical. He was dehydrated, malnourished, and suffering from extreme fatigue. More alarming, though, was his mental state. He was muttering her name even in unconsciousness, fists clenched as if still holding onto the will to keep searching. News of Toan's collapse spread quickly. His friends, family, and employees flocked to the hospital, their hearts heavy with worry. They had never seen him so broken, so vulnerable. Some wept silently, others prayed, but all shared the same fear, that if Tu Diem wasn't found soon, it wouldn't just be her life at stake. Toan's soul was slipping away with every day she remained lost. No one dared to say it aloud, but the question hung in the air like a curse. How much longer could he endure this, before his body or his heart gave up completely? Days passed, but Toan's condition showed little improvement. He remained unconscious, trapped somewhere between dreams and despair, his body refusing to respond despite the doctor's efforts. Machines beeped steadily beside his hospital bed, monitoring the faint thread of life that still clung to him. His family stood by helplessly, watching a man once so powerful, so indomitable, now reduced to fragility. Every so often, he would whisper her name, Diem, in a broken, barely audible voice, as if his heart was still searching for her even in the abyss of unconsciousness. In the sterile white room, his younger sister, Lynn, sat by his bedside, holding his cold hand tightly. She couldn't remember the last time she saw her brother smile. Lynn wiped her tears and whispered to him, on high, "Please, wake up. She's out there, I know it. But you have to live, or else how will you ever find her?" Everyone around feared that his heart was breaking beyond repair, that his spirit had already followed Tu Diem deep into the darkness of the forest. Yet Lynn refused to give up hope. She remembered how much her brother had changed after meeting Diem, how the once stoic, work-obsessed CEO had become gentle, loving, and full of life again. Losing Diem meant losing all of that, and Lynn knew that if her brother's heart stopped, it wouldn't just be from physical exhaustion, it would be because the woman he loved was still missing. Meanwhile, far away in the old man's secluded hut, Tu Diem was growing stronger each day. She no longer needed help to sit up or walk short distances around the small clearing. Yet, her heart grew heavier. She could feel it, some deep, unexplainable connection telling her that Toan was suffering. Sometimes in her sleep, she'd wake up gasping, tears on her cheeks, feeling his pain as though it were her own. One evening, as the sun bled crimson over the horizon, the old man sat beside her, watching the sadness that never left her eyes. He said softly, "Child, I see the storm in your heart. Whoever you're longing for, he must be waiting too. Sometimes, the ones we love carry our burdens even when we're far away." Those words struck something deep inside Tu Diem. She stood slowly, despite her still weakened body, determination flaring in her gaze. "I have to go," she said firmly. "I can't stay here. He needs me. I can feel it." The old man nodded, understanding in his eyes. He packed some herbs and food for her journey, and before she left, he placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Follow your heart, child. It will lead you back to where you belong." And so, with unsteady but resolute steps, Tu Diem ventured out of the forest, driven by an invisible thread tying her soul to Toan's. She didn't know how far she would have to walk, or what dangers awaited, but her only compass was the love that refused to let her stop. Back in the hospital, Toan's pulse suddenly spiked. The monitors beeped rapidly, alerting the nurses. His eyelids fluttered, his lips moved faint, but distinct. "DM, she's coming." The doctors rushed in, trying to stabilize him, but Lynn only smiled through her tears. "You can feel her, can't you, on high? Don't give up. She's coming back." Somewhere between life and death, Toan's heart stirred, awakened by the same force that guided Tu Diem through the dark woods. Love, relentless and unyielding, crossing every distance to bring them back to each other.